Hi, I'm Shane Bauman, and welcome to Building the Biz, the podcast that takes you into the mind of the entrepreneur. Each episode, we sit down with inspiring founders, business owners, and leaders from various industries. They'll share their personal stories, the lessons they've learned, and the hurdles they've overcome to create thriving businesses. Whether you're a longtime entrepreneur seeking fresh insights or someone just starting out on your business journey, Building the Biz is your go-to source for inspiration, wisdom, and insight. So buckle up and join us on this entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe now and never miss an episode. Welcome to Building the Biz. Welcome to Building the Biz. Meet Christine Hernandez, a business owner, consultant, and leadership coach with a commitment to expanding people's potential. Over the years, Christine has owned and built 3 multigenerational companies where she created strong, sustainable businesses, teams, and cultures. Now she's passionate about working with founders and business owners who are experiencing team dynamic challenges to discover their vision, mission, and core values so they can better communicate with their team and integrate what matters most to them in their business and team culture. Welcome to the show, Christine.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks for having me. I'm super pumped.
Feel like we both overcome some things. Maybe we'll get into that here in a minute. There's been these forces that have been trying to keep us from connecting. So I'm excited to get into the conversation because that usually means something amazing is going to come out on the other side. So I'm going to start with some rapid fire questions. That's how we roll these days on Building the Biz. First one is, what is your morning non-negotiable? Coffee, journaling, or silence?
Ooh, dang, that's hard. Journaling.
Awesome. What's a phrase or quote you find yourself saying to clients all the time?
Ooh, you can't give what you don't have.
That's a good one. We're probably going to dive into that today. First business you ever started, how old were you?
First business was my modeling business. I actually made a ton of money there. I was 3, if you take it all the way back. I actively was a participant in that when I was 12 and very dedicated to it till about my 20s.
Awesome. Clear is kind, or just because you can doesn't mean you should. Which one do you say more?
Ooh, probably clear is kind.
Awesome. What's one sign you personally know you're approaching burnout?
My catchphrase. If you don't know your catchphrase, you need a catchphrase. My catchphrase is it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
You know what's funny about that? I got my wife a shirt because she said that, because usually when she says it's fine, I know it's not fine. And there's a shirt that says I'm fine on it. And it's got like this claw mark and like blood coming out of it. I'm like, you wear that shirt around. So.
I get that shirt. Yeah, no, my team knows like the second I say it's fine, they're like, oh, shit's not fine.
That's not good. That's not good. What's more fun for you, casting vision or pruning what's already working?
Ooh, casting vision for sure.
If you had a superpower in business, what would it be?
Probably positivity.
What's your favorite way to reset when your body and mind are out of sync?
Probably the beach.
Same. In one word, how would you describe leading a multi-generational team?
In one phrase, that's the question?
One word.
Oh, one word. Oh, shoot. Fulfilling or exhausting, one or the other.
Or both. They can coexist. Okay. What's one surprising way God has realigned your business that you never saw coming?
Oof. Having a mass exodus about a year into buying one of the companies I bought. 76 people left. And I thought I was an incredible leader that had trained them all. And it was the best and one of the worst things that have happened to me in business.
I'm going to just jump right into that. So what did you learn in that?
So many lessons, man. That's a loaded question. I'll try to be concise. I think when I bought one of the companies that I bought not too many years ago, I had trained and built the team that we had. And so in my head, we were going, actually one of my pseudo goals that I probably never told anyone out loud was that we were going to have like virtually no turnover, because anytime you buy any business, you're going to have some turnover. And in my head, the goal or what success was that we'd have no turnover. And God was like, I swear, probably on the throne, like laughing that like she has no idea what success looks like through this company. Like that actually is hysterical. I did not listen because I didn't know that. And so I walked in thinking I had great relationships with my team. But the reality is the team signed up for the goals and the way the previous business owner had built. And I was wildly different. The previous owner, if you know anything about the Enneagram, was a 2. 2s are helpers. Oh, wow. They're very kind and they move a lot different than 8s. I'm an 8, a challenger. So I came in investing crazy money, moving and growing. And I figured out very quickly that the people who were there that I had trained signed up for the leadership of the original owner and not the like extreme version of what I was doing and how I was leading. And within a few months, I had like 20 some people leave. Like, and one of them quite literally called me a cult leader when they left. It was so painful. I thought these people were my friends. But honestly, like it taught me so much about alignment. Like alignment doesn't mean you can have fun together. Alignment truly means that you want to live life in a similar fashion. And alignment means you're driving at the same thing and in a similar way. And we were driving at the same thing in a very different way. And I think that was one of the main things. And yeah, it knocked me on my butt for a good while. It was really
so I'm confused. I thought you said 76. Did you have another 20 leave after the 76?
Oh, totally. Yeah, no. We went from a large team to literally 3 people.
Oh my gosh. So you had almost 100 people and you were down to 3.
Yep. It was.
What happened after that? Like, what'd you do?
We changed the business model. That was another thing I learned, that like the core product was great. The business model was not great. And so I believe in autonomy, true autonomy, where you have support and you have success, and you have freedom. But there wasn't really there was a difference between unity and uniformity. And we had great uniformity. We did not have unity. Mm-hmm. And we had codependency. We did not have autonomy. Mm-hmm. And I think those things can look very similar or even feel similar from like a culture perspective if we like each other, which we did. We all really liked each other, but it didn't work. And so yeah, we then changed the business model and rebuilt in a completely different way. And it's been really, really good and really hard. And we've learned a ton along the way, or I have. And I have a lot more trust in my team now. I'm not responsible for people. People support in a different way. I was like a savior before, and it was exhausting.
So that business is still in play today?
It is, yeah.
Oh, nice.
We don't have that many people still. We have 13 now. But 13 that are all in and super responsible of their own success.
Love that. So pivoting a little bit, how did you decide that you should be on an entrepreneurial path?
I went to school to be a teacher. And I lasted about 6 months. I'm highly dyslexic, struggled really my whole education path. I struggled to the point I graduated when I was in high school and I was about 16. I did not learn the same way and I wanted to be done before. And I thought I was going to go back and save our education system. And within 6 months, I realized very quickly, as well as all of the leaders that were trying to manage me, that I wasn't meant for a typical education system. So I launched my child care center. And I was a newly single mom with very little income. and a almost 3-year-old in a new relationship. And I had no business starting a business, and yet somehow convinced people to give me money and a building and all the things. And I never looked back. I've been an entrepreneur, and I was 19 at the time. So, yeah, it was really early in my career. My parents and all of my family are a little bit more entrepreneurial. But I definitely wanted to change the education system. And I did that. We opened a childcare center, and we got the right tools and support in place before kids enter the education system. And so I feel like that was a huge success, but I knew out of the gates I was not going to thrive in the education system. And they were very reluctant to all the changes that I wanted to make. So it was pretty quick.
So as an Enneagram 8, you said something that I relate to because I know we're both 8s, and you were talking about being a savior. And it's interesting. There's actually, I think it's Skillet that has a song called Savior. And I used to listen to that song and I'm like, yeah. And I was like kind of cheering it on for the wrong reason. So how are you able to shirk off that whole savior mindset? Like, how have you been able to keep that in check, shirk it off, and kind of take a different perspective around that whole mindset? Because I could totally relate to that, by the way.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things, one of the companies that we have, my husband and I, it's a carpet cleaning company, but we used to do restoration. And when you're in restoration, it's an emergency. So you have an emergency team and emergency calls and all of the things to back up an emergency. And about 4 years into running that company, I realized that first responders deal with emergencies. Floods are typically not actual life or death emergencies. And I started to do things really different in my business. We stopped, not that we wouldn't respond because people still need that. And there is like a time component with that. But the savior mentality puts us in a place of fight or flight. And when we interact in business, if you're not a true first responder, a life is not going to be lost over this situation. We just live in a reactive place. And I decided a few years into that business that I didn't want to be reactive anymore in leadership. I wanted to be proactive. And I wanted to give my team a proactive life versus a reactive life. And they were already coming in addicted to drugs and alcohol and all of the things in that industry. You see it all. And so I think it was honestly like the changing point was within that organization where I realized that there's only one savior, and that's Jesus. And if I take that place, I'm not allowing him or trusting him to do what he's going and literally came to this earth to do. And so I need to get the heck out of the way and let Jesus be the savior and support his mission. And to do that, I have to be in a proactive state and not in fight or flight. And I have to be trusting him fully. And honestly, it was a restoration company that really was the catalyst for that, because everything felt so reactive, answering your phone at 2 a.m. And I just made wildly different decisions once I was trusting Jesus with his mission and my place in it. I think that's when I was like, we're not saving lives. That's not our job. So we're going to start we're going to stop reacting and we're going to start planning.
Well, it's occurred to me as I've matured a bit, because I had a tendency to always put out fires, like I've just fixed everything for everybody. And it gets to a point where obviously that's exhausting. But the other thing is I really feel like you're kind of robbing somebody of a learning experience. Like if you, like lately, more and more, I just let things kind of play out and just kind of see what happens for a little while. And if all of a sudden I'm not getting somebody to respond, then maybe I'll inject myself in. But more often than not, if I let people figure things out, the problem sometimes flushes itself out, takes care of itself, as if I'm just a little more patient. Has that kind of been your experience as well?
Totally. And I think that gives us the ability to separate our value from it. Like, I think another piece of that is like not finding our value and solving other people's problems. And I tell my team all the time when they're asking questions that they probably know the answer to, you have a brain and I have one too. Let's use yours for right now. And then we'll come back to mine if we can't figure it out in yours. And I think that that's something that people in our organizations or kids, whatever, in our leadership don't grow because we just do it all for them instead of truly trusting them to do it for themselves. And I think that that's one thing, like you're saying, like when you just let it ride, it kind of works itself out. And I think sometimes it works itself out better than if we came in and saved the day. So 100%. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about in our initial conversation was this idea of resilient leadership. And people don't learn to be resilient unless we allow them kind of the margin to do that. And what I wanted to ask is, if we think about it from a leadership perspective, help me understand your explanation of what it looks like to be a resilient leader. Like we talked kind of about what it looks like to allow people to become resilient, but what does it look like to be a resilient leader?
Yeah, I don't think there's one definition for this, but I think for me, I realize that being a resilient leader means to stay in a state of surrender, and not allow my emotional state to be moved by my circumstances. And that is something that is a practice every day. Something happens, and can I stay grounded, trusting God, trusting the organization, trusting the people that work with me? Or am I going to lose myself in this situation? Is this situation going to make me, or am I going to use it to work with God's plan? And so I think that for me has been, I just used to be moved by everything, and I would lose myself in every situation that didn't go my way or go as planned. I love a plan. I have a very clear vision for my life and business. And it was really easy to get caught in that vision and care more about the vision than what God is doing in the moment. And so I think part of that's also just staying present and being able to live in the present and surrender everything we can't control.
It's good. So, we talk about kind of the savior idea, savior mindset, which I think can absolutely lead to burnout. And I think many leaders struggle with burnout. I'll raise my hand and say, I know we were talking at the beginning of this conversation, like I feel like I'm up against burnout right now. How do you practically coach clients through prevention and recovery with burnout?
Yeah, Shane, I think for me, when I'm working with clients, I think the thing that's most important is connecting people back to themselves. Like when we start looking at burnout or we look at being resilient on the other side of that, I think one of the things that those two topics have in common is how disconnected or connected are we to ourselves and to God, and how do we have a practice, or how do we build the muscle to actually stay connected or be connected and not find our identity or allow our identity to get caught in the circumstances? Because we make decisions out of that. And I think that's what creates burnout, is just this elongated habit or time frame that we just are in fight or flight, and we're on full drive mode. We're giving it all the gas, and it wears us down. And then we ignore, we're disconnected. So then we ignore those signs. So I think it always starts with our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with God. And if we don't understand who we are and whose we are, we're always going to be fighting burnout. And even knowing those things, like I've spent the last at least decade trying to understand those things for myself. And I don't think there's like a check. I know those things. I think it's a journey. I think it's always unfolding, but I think it starts with that. And since we were talking about it before we hop on, can I ask you a question back?
Yeah, please do.
Like feeling on the brink of burnout right now, what do you feel like is the catalyst moment that you need to have to actually turn that and like stop that process from happening? Just thinking through that, like, what do you need most right now when you're thinking about feeling burnt out?
It's just rest. And when I say rest, like absolute rest, it's It's the ebb and flow. Ebb and flow is not the right word. It's stepping into Sabbath, like true Sabbath, true rest. Because my challenge, my problem is that I'll say I'm resting, quote unquote, but I'm still doing a bunch of stuff. And I need to just, and I also would say that rest is not checking out on my phone or just binge watching Netflix or whatever. I need like rest where I can just step away. I cannot have demands on my schedule for a few days, maybe. But that's what needs to happen. And today I really recognized it because I was struggling formulating words in the lunch meeting, and I was trying to recall an introduction that this guy had made. And I'm just like, my brain is not functioning right now because I'm exhausted. Like my mind and my body are just exhausted. And you and I talked about it before we hopped on. As eights, I'll will myself to move forward. And at some point, that's bad because I don't want to crash and burn to the point where I have a heart attack or I have an outburst or something that's not going to be good. And so, yeah, for me, it's absolute rest. I need absolute rest right now, and that's where I'm at. So
that I love that answer, and I think one of the challenges. I don't know if we're both eights on the Enneagram, but one of the things that I realized is I don't know how to rest. Like,
yeah,
there became a point a couple of years ago, people would be like, you just need to rest. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, nothing makes me feel rested. And that's a sign of actual clinical burnout.
right.
But what is actual rest? I think that one of the places I will usually get to with our clients is, what is rest? What does that actually mean to you? Because for eights, a lot of times going for a run will make me feel more rested than watching Netflix. You want to burn me out, put me in front of a TV, I'll throw up and fall asleep. I don't do well. It actually does wear me down. It overstimulates me or something. It just drains my energy. And I think understand some people, like for my mom, she's a peacemaker and she needs just Zen time and zone out. And she needs that chill moment in front of the TV where it just does not serve me. So I think one of the biggest benefits that I've seen is just understanding, what does it actually mean to rest to you as a leader? I think that's a really hard question to answer right now in our current busy, overwhelming lives that always have a distraction at hand.
Yeah, I'm very similar. Like, I guess I would consider myself an active rester. Like if I go for a hike, and I've debated, my daughter and we climb 14ers every year, and she wants to do one on Sunday, and I'm like, maybe I just can't. And as you've been talking about it, I'm like, that might actually be really, as hard as it is, it might be actually really restful for me to just do that.
This episode of Building the Biz is brought to you by Rise Wealth Strategies, your strategic ally in protecting, growing, and exiting your business on your own terms. At Rise, we understand that building a business is more than just numbers. It's about creating a legacy. That's why we've teamed with Building the Biz to bring you insights, tools, and conversations that empower you to make informed financial decisions at every stage of your business journey. Whether it's protecting the viability of the business entity itself, deploying strategies to retain your top people, or exiting your business, Rise has the resources to help you accomplish your goals. Learn more about how Rise can help you take your business to the next level at risewealth.org. Securities products and advisory services offered through Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS, member FINRA, SIPC. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. 7898912.1. Expires 5/27.
And then I'm going to take Monday off. I'm going to be moving some stuff around on my calendar. Like, I'm actively recognizing that, okay, I got to create a longer weekend. I'm going to have to move some things around because I need that rest. I need to unplug from always thinking about the business, always being on, always having demands on my time. And then the thing about, I'm sure you're probably the same way, is I go home and then I have demands from my kids want stuff from me, even though they're grown, or my wife needs something, or my mother-in-law needs something, and it's like, man, I don't feel like I can get away. And at some level, I created that, right? So that's the other side, is like what you're saying about the saver thing. So I'm just relating to all this as you're talking about it.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. I think that one of the things that is most helpful is, and we probably both like kind of cringe at this. This is totally cringe for an 8, is being able to ask for help. And I think that resilient leaders, they know how to ask for help, and then they trust people and they allow people to do it in their own way. And that's something that I've had to learn over and over again. Still not good at it. When I am tired, when I'm at the end of myself, trusting that there's a purpose in that and God has me in that season for a reason, I think is really important. And I think so many times I try to just keep this as if nothing happened. I've had my team say that to me literally today. Why didn't you say something? I'm like, I don't know. I just wanted to like do business as per usual. I didn't want anyone to know.
Right.
When I'm burnt out, I feel weak. And I think that a lot of leaders can relate to that. I don't want to feel weak. I want people to feel like they can trust me and trust my leadership. And if I'm missing a beat or I'm down, I fear that people are they're going to not feel safe in their positions. They're not going to trust my leadership, whatever that is. And I think sometimes my best leadership moments or my best seasons, my best results have been when I am too tired, too burnt out, too whatever, to actually get the job done in the way that I typically would. And then a leader or my kids or my husband gets to rise to the occasion. And all of a sudden, it's better than I would have ever planned it or expected or seen it in my vision. And I didn't do it. And I think for me, the exchange, if we let savior mentality go and we invite that season in, all of a sudden, we don't get the fulfillment of being the savior. We get the fulfillment of watching someone else grow. And I think that is the biggest exchange that I have fallen in love with, trying to let that savior mentality go, is on the other side of that. We get to see people grow and step into their identity and step into their genius zone. And it doesn't ride on our shoulders. And we get to do life with people instead of for people. And that, I think, is actually what Jesus was always trying to get to us. That like was quite literally the point of the disciples. And I think we miss that so much because we're stuck in the savior, which then burns us out. And then we feel guilty. And it's just this like never ending cycle. So I don't know. Do you feel like you struggle with the guilt piece?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I'm communicating with my partner down in Phoenix today. I just had to tell him, like, because I punted on a meeting. I'm like, dude, I can't do it right now. And he's like, are you doing okay? And I'm like, I just need a moment. Like, I need to just like let my brain rest. And I started telling myself a story. I'm like, this is going to freak him out. He's going to be concerned. He's going to be like, will the business be strong? Is this guy the right leader? Like, all of a sudden I start telling myself all these freaking stories. And to your point, if I step back and I really pay attention to the way things have transpired in the past, it's an opportunity for somebody else to step up, and then they get to step into it. Like you said, people step into their own genius story. I love that. That is a freaking great term. And I know he will step up, and I've stepped up for him so many times, but I start telling myself the story. Like, I don't want people to think I'm a weak leader. I don't want, there to be cracks or whatever the case may be. And that's problematic too, because you can't keep doing that indefinitely, and you're robbing people of something.
Yeah. I had a friend one time years ago. Her daughter was in my child care center, and she literally told me she didn't want to be friends with me. And she was honestly one of my good friends. And it's like she was so honest. I've always reflected on this conversation, but she said, I asked her, like, what's going on? Like, what happened? And she literally told me, I have zero value, Christine. You do it all. She was in her 50s. I was in my early 20s at the time, or mid 20s. And she said, you do it all. You have all the answers. You know how to make my kid happy. You know how to support me. We'd like given her she was a single mom. We gave her a Christmas tree or something. She's like, I have zero value to add. And you just give and give and give, and you never let me give back, or you'll never receive from me. And it just doesn't feel like a friendship. It feels like a handout. And I was like,
wow.
ouch, right? Like it hurt so bad. And she didn't want to be in a relationship with me anymore. She was dead serious. There was zero room for her to have value because I did it all. I gave and gave and gave. And I think that was such a reflection moment for me, or just this like moment that kind of woke me up to go, oh, that's not actually a relationship. That's not leadership.
Yeah. We'll talk about a Goddard event because I would say most people probably wouldn't come to that realization. Number one, your friend's realization. And number two, they, in many cases, wouldn't even say anything. Would probably just disappear. So like, she actually kind of did you a favor, right? By like highlighting it and saying something to you about it. Cause, oh my gosh, that had to crush you at some level, I bet.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it was one of those moments where we're clear as kind, right? Instead of her ghosting me, she was willing to be that honest. And that's the biggest gift that she could have given me, because it really did start to shape how I looked at how I showed up in relationships. And I was super burnt out. I mean, it was probably 6 months after that. I like had a terminal brain condition pop up, totally fine now. But like my body, my mind, I like burnout was an understatement at the time. And I just didn't know how to stop. And I think that was like a very catalyst moment where I was like, oh, this isn't relationship. I don't know how to receive. And I think resilient leaders and leaders that lead well, we know how to receive. We also do a good job at giving. But I think that receiving is an underused skill set.
Oh man. What's so crazy about that, Christine, I was literally driving into the office this morning and God showed me that I am resistant to receiving. He showed me, he's like, you're resistant to receiving. So like, for instance, I officiated a wedding on Saturday for my niece, which was awesome because depending on the venue, I can do public speaking. It was kind of something I overcame, and I've replayed it in my head over and over and over again because that's just what I do. And there were probably 10 or 12 people that told me I did a great job, and they thought it was really good. And I still have this track that plays in my head, like, do they really think that? Or are they saying that because they felt sorry for me because it wasn't that great? And I was driving, and God's like, "You're resistant to receiving." I'm like, boy, that's a shot to the head.
Ow. Now, it's funny. My brother just got married. It's so relevant. And I gave a speech at my brother's wedding. I did a toast. Same thing. Like I totally went into my head. Same exact thing. Like I couldn't even hardly have fun and like dance later that night.
Right.
I was so in my head. My husband's like, let it go. It was fine. And I think that there's a bit with weddings in general. I think there's a big honor piece, but within that, what do you think? What's your fear if you just receive and actually trust that you did a good job? Like what would happen if you just trusted that?
That's a good question. I don't know that there's a fear. It's just a doubt that that's a legitimate that's a heartfelt compliment. It's not a fear. I can't identify a fear. It's that doesn't. I don't believe that's a heartfelt compliment. I believe there's some ulterior motive, or they felt sorry for me, and this is something I've done a lot of work on this, and it still sits there. I can't explain why.
Yeah, I can relate. Like, yeah, for me, like the fear is that they're not being genuine. Like I want that raw, like that friend. I'm like, tell me how terrible I am, right? Like tell me the thing so that I can grow.
Right.
I know not everyone is like that. That might be like solely an A thing. I'm not really sure.
I'm absolutely the same way. And it's like, you're called a challenger for a reason. Like, it's like, oh, there's a challenge. Sweet. Now I got something to do. Like I can wait, I don't have to do anything. I just have to receive. I don't really like that so much. You know what I mean? I think some of it's just wiring. Like I just have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I think it does start to wear on you though, right? Like when there's like that guilt or that you can't let it kind of sink in. Like sometimes I think to myself, what would it look like for me to receive in this moment? Like how would one go about receiving that compliment? Like what would the actual tactics? I'm obviously a strategic thinker. I'm like, what's the strategy of receiving?
Well,
I've asked myself that so many times.
I've heard people say that you should assume that people generally have good motives.
Yeah. Assume the best.
Yeah, assume that people have good motives, and generally most people have a good heart. And so if I could just do that, then there's a higher probability they'll be like, that was genuine. And actually, as I take a step back, there was a gentleman who was there. I grew up with him. He and I have given each other a hard time for as long as I can remember. Like, we are just really honoring with each other. He's about 20 years my senior. He taught at my school. He stayed friends with my parents for a very long time. And he said, you did an amazing job. He's like, do you do public speaking? And he would have told me if it sucked. He would have been like, you should never. And I even said that. I'm like, I know that's a valid compliment from you, because you would have been like, dude, that was terrible. You should never do that.
Mess that one up. Don't quit your day job. Yeah. Well, and I think for that too, I think sometimes we don't believe it. And so that kind of goes back to, like, in the moment, at least for me, when after the toast I did at my brother's wedding, I didn't believe it. There was so many marks because I hold myself to such high expectations. There's so many things that I wanted to do differently. And there were, in my head, I wanted to give a bigger pause at this moment. And I'm just so critical of myself. I think when we have that, when we hold ourselves to that high of standards, and then it's hard to actually receive other people's compliments or receive things if we don't actually feel we deserve it. And I think that is a huge piece of what causes burnout, is really high expectations and not fully celebrating the small wins. I think one of the best ways to overcome burnout is starting to celebrate the small wins, even when you've just went through a really challenging season. Even the story I was talking about a little bit ago, when I had a mass exodus in one of my companies, it's really hard to look back at that season even now and see the small wins. But they're there. Was it in alignment with my vision and my expectations? No, by no means. It was not. But it was better because of where we're at right now and who I am because of it. But we don't typically, especially when we're starting a season of burnout or we're in burnout, we're not looking for those wins and how to celebrate ourselves. Would you agree with that? Like, is that something that you're good at?
I have created a habit that's helped me be better at it. So every day I do a daily plan. And one of the things I do to start my day is I put the 3 things from the prior day that I'm proud of that I did, which is not normal for me. So I put it on there. So I do it every morning. And actually, as you were talking, I was thinking through and I was like, that's kind of become routine. I've taken the easy way out. I've been like, oh, I'm proud of this. I'm proud of this. I'm proud of this. Instead of going, okay, let's look at the last day. Let me really look at my calendar and write down the things that I'm proud of that I could celebrate. Because I'll go to easy things like sobriety, my marriage, my kids, persevering. It's like, okay, I need to take a step back and really reflect and celebrate those small wins from the prior day.
Isn't that interesting that our judgment against others is always the true reflection of what we're judging ourselves for?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. When I'm critical of somebody, I'm like, okay, why am I being so critical? Oh, that's something I don't like in myself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, we say we have like a no blame tolerance on our team and within our family, because I just know at the core of blame, we're in our limiting belief, and that's just not in alignment with our identity and everything that we've been created with from God and given from God. And so I think there is a piece of it that, even in that moment when we're like, oh, is that compliment genuine? It's because I'm not giving myself any compliments. I'm being disingenuine with myself and how I celebrate. When we were first starting Coffee and Convos, one of the things that we did was anytime we would reflect or kind of debrief after, any event, I would say you get 1 upgrade and you have to have 3 celebrations. And it's so interesting how easy it is to point out all the things that we did wrong, but it's super hard to look at the things that went right. And I'm like, you only get one. You get one upgrade, one thing you want to do better next time. And I think that that's something that is really challenging or can create a lot of burnout, is just being stuck in that place of being overly critical and not seeing any of the celebration, like you're saying.
I like that. That's a reframing, the idea of upgrade versus something I need to work on or do better. That's a great reframing. How long have you guys been doing Coffee and Combos now?
You know what's so funny, Jordan? I should know this. We were just talking about this. I think it's the birthday of Coffee and Combos next month. Don't quote me on that. I want to say, it was before COVID. It's 5 or 6 years.
Wow, I didn't realize it's been that long.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, crazy good. And the vision for that, just like pure community, it's just taken on such a different networking, right? Like instead of networking, truly doing relationship and like being in relationship to see what God does and see what's possible is such a shift. But I think at first, Jordan was the one who kicked that off and started that. And I think that at first, when we were maximizing it or scaling it, whatever you want to say, in business terms, it just like lost its heart. Like when you're doing anything for 5 years or 6 years and you're involving other people, Coffee and Combos, I think, had a moment of burnout itself. And we lost the heart because we're too involved in the success or the results that came from it. And it just speaks to like what health looks like when we stay committed and ask for those upgrades. It's so interesting. Like there's been so many lessons learned because of community. And I think that trying to overcome burnout or upgrade anything in isolation is another thing that I'm like, it actually can't happen because we need others to sharpen.
It's good. I do have to give a shout out to Coffee and Combos. There's a lot of amazing referral groups out there, but the community of Coffee and Combos is definitely something that's very unique and distinct. So any listeners that are in the Denver area, check it out. It's great. It's very authentic, which is one of the things I love about it. It's because I've been to networking groups where it just feels fake. Like it's like speed dating on steroids, and it's just weird. Coffee and Combos isn't like that. It's a community of people. It's very easy to interact, and there's great people there. So I love what you guys have built.
Thanks. Yeah. I can't take credit. Jordan's incredible. And yeah, it's, we have a saying, it's only awkward if you make it awkward. That actually came from her wedding. And I think that like relationship is that, and that's the thing that I find most helpful with that community is you keep relationships because it's not built on a networking formula. It's built on relationships. So whether you go every month or you miss a few months or whatever, you don't lose those relationships because we're not just like there for the quotas. So that's something I really appreciated. So thanks for the shout out. It's
been great. Well, I mean, this is everything we've been talking about has really been hinging upon leadership, and it's really self-leadership, which I think is great. You kind of keyed in on something that I thought was interesting when you were talking about somebody paying you a compliment, and you were talking about like how I was thinking, well, is she going to go down the path of me like saying I don't pay compliments to each other? Actually, when I pay a compliment, I'm very sincere about it. In fact, I tell people, I'm like, I'm not handing out compliments for, just for the sake of handing out compliments. Like if I say it, I mean it. But you brought up something interesting. I'm not complimenting myself. Rick, that's rare. Like I've had to force myself to do it. There's a great book by Craig Groeschel called Winning the War in Your Mind. And he talks about just that idea of those trenches in our mind and the things that we tell ourselves. And there's tracks that are playing that we're not even really paying attention to. And they're very self-defeating. So I thought that was a neat, interesting reframing.
Yeah, I love that book. That's a great read, and he's incredible. I steal so much of my stuff from Craig Groeschel, but yeah, you're so right. And it's funny because I'll start working with someone sometimes or a leader organization, and they're like, "I'm not going to just sit around and lie," and I'm like, "Well, it's not lying. I'm asking you to find a genuine compliment about yourself." And then I started working with a fitness coach a couple months ago, and she's like, I want you to like text me something nice about yourself every morning. And I was like, I'm quitting right now. This is dumb. I am not doing this. And it has been so hard. Like every morning, I'm like, it does feel like lying. Like, this is complete. I'm like, I don't know what else to say. This is so stupid. And it can't be anything. I'm like, I am courageous. And she's like, it has to be about your physical image. And I'm like, I hate everything about this. And it is really hard when we don't see our own success and we don't see that we're enough. It does feel like a lie. And yet the brain is there's so much science around those neural pathways and why it creates more space.
So to your point, I mean, I think if I'm honest, the real reason I'm having a hard time receiving compliments is because I don't believe it myself. Like you told me that, I didn't believe it myself. I say that, oh, you're just being nice. But the real root is I don't believe that. I can't say that to myself, or I haven't said that to myself and believed it. Shouldn't say I can't. I just haven't said it to myself and believed it. So it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, if we're not grounded in who we are, kind of going back to what I said earlier, if we're not grounded in who we are and who we were created to be, it's really easy to get into burnout because then we're doing things to fulfill a void that is only able to be fulfilled by the internal state, not by external factors.
Man, this has been a great conversation. I have to wrap up with the two questions that I ask every time. And the first one is what advice would you give to someone who has their own business or is thinking about starting their own business?
Get clear on your personal vision, mission, and values before you try to create a company off of anything else.
That's really good. What do you want your legacy to be?
That I should have a very clear answer. I want my legacy to be definitely love. I really want people to feel loved. And not nice loved, because I'm never that gushy person. I'm the person that's going to be honest that there is a little tough love. But I think deeper than that, I want to be the mirror, and I want to teach people to be the mirror that creates the ripple effect that allows people to know themselves and to know who they were created by. So if I can leave the legacy of the mirror, to put it in layman terms, that is what I want. I want to be able to teach people how to hold up the mirror for themselves and for others so that they can see who they were truly created to be from an identity standpoint. I would say it's that.
Well, that ties everything together in a nice little bow based on our conversation today. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Christine. Any closing thoughts you'd like to add?
No, thanks, Shane. You're such a representation of what great leadership looks like, from your LinkedIn to just how you show up. So thanks for having me. It's a huge honor. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that, and I received that compliment.
Good. Yay. We've gotten somewhere today.
We made progress today. I'll look forward to catching up with you soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us on another exciting episode of Building the Biz. We hope you found today's journey as inspiring as we did. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving us a comment on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps us bring you more incredible stories from the world of the entrepreneur. Don't forget to share Building the Biz with your friends, family, and colleagues who could use a dose of motivation and valuable insights. By the way, we're always on the lookout for fascinating entrepreneurs with unique stories to share. If you know someone who fits the bill or have a story of your own to tell, reach out to us. You can find our contact information in the show notes. Before we go, remember your journey as an entrepreneur is unique, and it's normal to face challenges. Until next time, keep dreaming big, keep hustling hard, and keep building the biz of your dreams. I'm Shane Bauman. Catch you on the next episode.
Registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC PAS. Securities products and advisory services offered through PAS. Member FINRA, SIPC. financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Rise is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by PAS, Guardian, or Rise, and opinions stated are their own. Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. 823-6576.1. Expires 8/27.